In this video, we're going to take a look at how to use an IDE to write code and compile and do debugging. So you've already seen that you can edit a file using your whatever editor you like and write your code, and eventually in a terminal compile your code. And also for debugging a code, there are videos on how to use GDB on a terminal to do code debugging. In this video, we're gonna look at using Visual Studio Code to do all these steps. This is another option for you, just in case you like to use IDEs. And you're welcome to use your other preferences. If you have any software that you're familiar with, and any IDE that you're familiar with, you're welcome to use that. Visual Studio Code is available for free on Windows, Linux, and Mac, so you can install it on your own machine. Or what I would recommend is using a Jupyter Hub environment. Now Visual Studio Code is available in Jupyter Hub. So you need to come to coding.ccell.io, and you need to log in with your university account, and then press start server. This is going to take a little bit to set up your server. Once this is logged in, all right. So in here, if you press this home, this is your home directory, and these are a bunch of the files that I have from previous project that I've been working on. So for this video, I've created this simple example calling code test. Inside code test, there's only one main.cpp that, let's take a look at this. It's a very simple main that we're going to go through the code. So just one CPP in one folder called code test. Okay. So to start VS Code, Visual Studio Code, you can click on this icon here. This is going to start the code server, and this is the project. You kind of sometimes, so in the folder, I have opened this before. Okay, let's try opening the folder. You click on File, Open Folder, and then you need to choose the project. So code test, and once you're in the folder, you press confirm, and it's gonna ask you to reload the page. Okay, once the page is reloaded, then you're in. The folder only has a main.cpp. There are a bunch of other stuff called .ipy checkpoints. These are the things that this environment just creates. So just ignore anything which starts with dot in the beginning. So the environment has some parts in it, so yours probably looks more like this. On the left hand side is a bunch of the icons. So the Explorer window basically is the project window. So we currently the folder and the contents of the folder. The search, you can ignore that. Source control, you can ignore that. So there is a debug window. We're gonna look at this later and see what this one does. There is this icon here. These are for extensions. So you can install different packages to Visual Studio Code. And one thing that we're gonna use today is C or C++ compiler. So if yours doesn't show this as installed, if you click on it, there should be a green install button. Press that. It might ask you to reload the page, and do that and come back. It's gonna bring you back here. You probably you don't have this icon either, so don't care about that. So once you're in the project, clicking on the folder setup, you can click on main to open it. So once you open the main, it should look colorful like this. This is because it's detecting the syntax. It's detecting that this is a variable definition. This is a macro, and this is a header file name in standard C++ line. Okay, so if this already is a good, does error detection, for example, it's just printed something which is not a code, and you can see that it draws a curly lines underneath to say that that's an error. So what does this code do? It's basically a main file, defines two variables A and B, assigns some values to those, prints out a message, please enter a number and press enter, doesn't go to next line, and then expects the code halts here until the user enters a value, and then puts that value in B. And then once the user press enter, it starts continuing the code and goes to your number was, and then prints B in front of whatever the value was entered, and then quit the code. Okay, so to compile this code, once you see a dot here, that means that it's not saved, so you can press Ctrl S to save the file. I also want to use terminal sometimes, so you can click here, terminal, new terminal, and that should open a terminal window here. This is the same terminal window as you had in Jupyter Lab environment. So I'm currently, as you can see, I'm in a code test folder, and if I press ls, I only have a main.cpp file here. Next thing that I'm gonna do, I need to set up the compile environment in the IDE. So you're going to press terminal, configure default build task. This is going to open this window, gives a bunch of compiler options, and here you're going to choose G++ build active file. All right, so this is going to generate a file called task.json. Don't care about this. This just tells this IDE how it needs to compile stuff. So close this. And you're pretty much set to compile the code now. So the way you can compile it is by pressing Ctrl Shift and B. So if I do that, you see that it ran G++ and the name of the file and then name of the output file. This command line looks a little bit different than what you did in the terminal, is because it uses the full path of the variable, the full path of the file names. Okay, so it says that press enter to go back to the terminal, so I'll do that. Now if I run ls, you'll see that there's executable called main. Okay, so I can run that by saying /main. Okay, enter. So there we go. So the code says please enter a number and press enter. So I'm gonna press 12, enter, and then the answer was your number was 12. So the B was initially 7, got overridden by my input, and B was eventually 12. All right. So next thing we're gonna do is that sometimes we want to see how the code reacts. So say I want the code to run to this line 7 here and then stop there, and then I want to move step by step just to see what happens there. Okay, so to do that, you can click on the left here to put a dot like this, the red dot. You can put them or take them off. And we are going to try to stop the code in that line. All right, so what you need to do for that is to go back to this debug. This has a picture of a bug, debug menu, and then here you see something says that there is no configuration. So first time that you do this, again the previous when we did configure default build task, that's only once. You don't need to repeat that. Once in the beginning of a new project, you need to do that. In the configuration here, you press on get gear icon, and then you can choose C++, GDB, LLDB as your debugger. So this is again going to set up your environment, and you just need to do this once in the beginning. And we chose G++ build and debug active file in the last step. So we're going to choose that again. Now this is going to start debugging. It's going to run the debugger. So it created again and launched a JSON file. We don't care about that. We just need to close it. Now you can see that the code started from the main file, came here to line 7 and halted here because I put a breakpoint here. Okay. And on the left-hand side, it shows all of your variables inside this function. So it says that there's 2 variables A and B. These were generated during the compile time. A was set up already to 2. B, in that location of the memory, has this random number in there, and it's not initialized. The code is here, but it hasn't ran yet. So once we step forward, the B is going to be get assigned 7. So take a look at this side B. So here are your controls, actually, before you check B. So the first one, if you press continue, it's going to continue running the code until it exits or hits another breakpoint. If you press step over, it's going to only run that line. If that line is a function, it's not going to go, it's going to go run the function, come back and go to the next line. So it's not going to go into the function. A step into, if that line is a function, is going to go into that function. And if you are inside a function, it's going to run the code until it gets out of that function. Reset basically goes to the beginning. It starts the same process from the beginning, and stops the whole thing, quits the whole program. Okay, so for now we're going to step over just to do one step. So we're expecting B to be 7 after I run this. So let's see. There we go. B was set to 7. Now next thing is that it needs to print that. So step over. And step over. So I came to terminal here. So it printed that, and now you can see I can't do anything because it's waiting for the user to enter the variable. So in the terminal I can enter 12 here, and then I need to press enter, and then it captured that variable, put it in B. So B is 12 now, and then it went and halted in the next line. Now, if I run the next line, it needs to print that. There we go. Your number was 12. And then if I continue, it's going to quit. All right. That's basically how the code works. So after this point, anytime that you edit anything, if you don't want to run through debugger, you can run it from terminal, as we did. So you can press /main to run the code, or you can, if you want to debug it, you can run it through debugger. If anytime you change a code, you need to update it. So if I plot B+1 here, if I want to print B+1 here, I need to save my file, press Ctrl+Shift+B to compile it. And then I can see the output. So 12, and it printed 13. Now it's printing B+1, right? So go try it, and try it a couple of times. Print with this, play with this environment, and feel comfortable with it. Let me know if you had any questions.